Hey folks, Gary Dean here with Sentiment Timing, and this is our technical video report for Monday, May 18th, 2026. I want to wish my brother Kevin a happy birthday. Hope you're having a great day. And let's get started. So I'm giving you a longer term kind of view of the S&P here. So this is the S&P 500. And the reason why is the way that I have this labeled, I have the 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're making kind of an extended wave 5. And once that completes, that will be our wave 1. And then I'm anticipating that we're going to get a deeper pullback, whether it has to come all the way down into our primary accumulation or come into our secondary. We have to wait and see on that. Now, the reason why I'm showing you this is, from here, it looks like the wave 5 is complete and we're starting that move down, which could be, but another way that I want to just kind of leave this door open is that this could be a subdivide where we made, this is our wave 4, 5, and now we're making another wave 4, and then that would give us another opportunity to make new all-time highs to complete that wave 1. I'm going to leave that up to Mr. Market. It's really hard to figure out which one it's going to follow, but the fact that we did find support right at where the other, where one of the wave 4s was, is typical in an Elliott wave. Now, one thing I want to point out is that if you notice our green bar here, that means we had some institutional buying today. And if this is a 2-hour chart, and this is the first one that we've seen since March 27th. So this was the first green bar. We've seen a lot of distribution, which the market had just absorbed, and we continued higher. And this is the first buy, and you can see it's at one of these. This is the trend line that I've had in place since we were up here, saying this is really the first spot that the bears need to get through. And if they do, then I'd anticipate that we're coming down to the 2770 level. And then somewhere down into this, the 71.95. And again, I'm leaving the door open for this just because this is a very, very extended wave. So typically we get, we get a deeper retracement. But again, I'm leaving that up to Mr. Market. What I do know is that today, things started looking pretty ugly again, and it was any kind of bounce that we got. You can see we saw buying step in on this gap down. We saw buyers stepping in, and we are at support. So seeing the bounce made sense. The news, again, I don't really like this kind of news trading where it's Trump came out and said that they're not, going to start bombing Iran tomorrow. And that's really what gave this market that big jolt. So again, it's one of these things where the boy who cried wolf. I don't know how many times the market will pay attention to it, but this is the way the bots are programmed. They read these headlines and start buying first, and shuffling through them all before everything is said and done. But hopefully it is. Hopefully this, we come up with some deal. I think we could use that at the gas prices, at the gas pumps. So hopefully something, comes up. It's just that we've been hearing this for the last 2 months. So, I'm taking it with a grain of salt, and we'll see what happens. But in any case, could this be an important bottom right here, and we're going to come up and close this gap? Absolutely, because you can see our heavy indicator here. This is on buy. We haven't really seen that in quite some time either. We're getting through. This is an indicator that I did. I'm trying to just figure out how to stay in trades, because when you do it off of just your emotions, which I've always said is hard to trade off of, because you're going to be wrong 90% of the time, and typically what happens is I'll get out of a trade way too early. So I'm kind of trying to force myself and say, all right, well, we're not going to get out of this until this is our stop line here. And you can see if what it has to do is 3 bars have to close above it for this to trigger the stop, the actual stop on it. But it's something I'm just testing out. But here's, you can see our liquidity indicators pretty stretched right there. So we may have to see some backing and filling. If the bulls open up, really what we want to keep an eye on is going to be the 74.28 level. And if they get above it, that's when we start looking up at the 74.50. And this is really where the bears, if they don't draw their line, are probably going to see us come up and close this gap. And if we're up here, we're probably going to come up and probably make new all-time highs. But right now, I think that I traded both ways today. We did all right. IWM was kind of stuck in a range. We did all right. We made a little bit of money, but really it was the quantum stocks that brought things down. And overall, I think we closed up a few hundred. It was really nothing major, $673. But you can see the quantum stocks took a hit. But this is the way really I've been trading this is being able to manage the portfolio as they're going down, and then when they hit support levels, I just buy the shares back that I have sold, and that's why things have been doing okay. So let's get back to this. If we come down, what we want. So on the upside, this is the resistance. It's going to be 74.30, and then it moves up to this 74.52. So let's take a look at some support levels. I'm going to move to a short-term chart here, and here you can see. So if we get a pullback, this is our support zone. Really, the first one is going to be right here. That's where when we got a little bit of, once we got over this, we saw actually selling kick in here. But in any case, if we see selling, I want to keep an eye on the 74.03. This is our trailing stop right here. And if that doesn't hold, then really what we're going to keep an eye on is the 73.80 down to the 73.73, and this is our secondary, which matches up with support. So the 73.64 would be important because if the bears, if they can push through that, most likely we're going to be taking these lows out, and really it's going to be pretty important for the bulls to hold this 73.41 down to this 73.22. If they lose this zone right here, then we could see a little bit of panic selling, and then again, what we're going to do is just keep an eye on our longer term charts. So let's take a look at IWM. As I said, it was really trading within a range for most of the day, and it was frustrating again because you're thinking that you're getting some type of breakout, and within the bar it's coming right back down again. So we were able to get out of the 75 the 275 puts pretty close to here. We made money. And then I took off the 275, and then I took off the 276 calls when we popped up here, just because we made the money on the short side, and that was getting close to break even. But in any case, the bulls on the small caps have not looked really too strong, except for this one candle, which you can see got sold off as well. But you can see we're getting buying. We have liquidity that's moving up. Our heavy indicator is showing that we are in overbought levels. Now, the last time we saw that was right here, and from there we saw IWM make a nice rally from the right around this 281 all the way up to the 285.67. So this is giving us a little bit of a warning sign saying, hey, you know what? Let's keep an eye on IWM and find out where support is. And if I just move to a 60-minute chart so we can see where support is, and you can see this. If they lose this line right here, we have this gap that's sitting right at the 272.20. And then this is going to be the important support level, and that's at the 270.38. And I'd mentioned that, I wouldn't be surprised if we do come down and test this. So you can see every single rally that we've had, though, has just been sold off. But we haven't really seen too many, really we've been seeing the buying on the way up. This is where they start kind of distributing out of their positions. And hang on one second. Let me just clean this up a little bit. Okay, I'm going to move to cluster too. Okay, so we haven't really seen. We've been seeing some buying down here, and again, we have full duration on our duration indicator, and you can see our our heavy oscillator still has some ways to go to get into the oversold levels. So it's we want to just kind of keep an open mind with it and really just trade the support areas, because what I'm finding out is that we're getting up there and it looks like we're getting a nice little bounce, or we're going to break through the resistance, and from there we just collapse right down. So we got to find out where the range is tomorrow and really trade the range until it breaks out of it, and then we start looking at other types of positions. But again, on the downside, we want to keep an eye on this 272.32, and then down at the 270, where is that, 270.38. And let's keep an eye on some resistance now. So let's put in some lines in the sand. I'm just going to go from the top here because this is going to give us a pretty good idea. So we have 55 bars. Let's move down and get our resistance, 55, and here we can see that this is where we're going to be running into resistance. So we have price resistance that's sitting right at this 278.20. We have some at the 279.25, and then we start running into our primary distribution levels. That's the 280.53, 282.10, and then the line in the sand for the bears is going to be this 284.21, because if they lose that, then I believe we're coming up and taking out these highs and probably heading up to 290. So let's see what plays out tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of your night, and I will talk to you guys in the morning.